Ladies and gentlemen, this is Beyond Your Radio. I am your host, Alex Kaluzny, guest hosting tonight for this edition of Family Feud. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have a mustache and I still have hair, thank God. So I'm the furthest thing from Steve Harvey, but we do have a husband-wife matchup tonight. So I'm very intrigued to see this. One, because I don't know what album Sue could possibly have picked out for Mark. And Mark, you know your wife better than anybody, so I'm very interested to see what you picked out for your wife. We grade on five categories in this: album artwork, flow of the album, musicianship, the accessibility to the listener in terms of how much they relate to it, and the overall score. So, music multiverse listeners, first up on the docket, Sue, what do you got?
All right, so Mark picked the album. What's it now? Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry everybody. So it's Jarvis Church, and it's called The Soul Station, and it's the songs of Sam Cooke. So he pulled this one out on our ride home from Columbus, Ohio over the weekend in the car, after 2 nights of no sleep and 2 hormonal teenage girls in the back seat.
Always a great time to listen to anything that has soul in it.
Perfect. So I have to say, when he put it in, my initial thought was that I recognized the singer, but the name didn't jive with the voice. And my brain was shot after 2 days of sitting out in the field watching lacrosse, but I eventually worked it out that somehow it had to be who I thought it was, and it was, although my husband tried to trick me. So Jarvis Church is actually a pseudonym for Gerald Eaton, who is I don't know if it's still around now, the lead vocalist of the Philosopher Kings, out of Canada. So, and Jarvis Church is actually 2 street names from Toronto. So very, very, you're so tricky. But his voice is really hard to not recognize. But then I thought, well, maybe somebody else out there has a really nice, smooth voice, and lucky them. So this is one in a compilation of different albums. And what can I say about it? Sam Cooke, of course, is Sam Cooke. He's kind of a hard act to follow. I would say, so far as Jarvis Gerald's take on things, it works, because he does have such a distinct voice, and it's not like he is trying to compete with Sam Cooke. And just his voice alone, I think, can take a song, and it doesn't make it his own, but it's enough of a difference that it doesn't sound like karaoke. So definitely an interesting album. Some of the songs on it are Change Is Gonna Come, Wonderful World, Bring It On Home to Me. There's like a variety of instruments like violin, cello, drums, keyboards, guitar. And I would say his voice alone holds up very well, but he also has some backup singers, and it kind of pulls it all together. I would say that it would be great to listen to. Like, I could see this in like a small little club in Toronto. It'd be really nice with a cigar and a Manhattan. Probably not, again, not so great in a car with 2 teenage girls, and trying to focus on the songs in between whatever else is going on in the back seat.
Well, I can say that would make you want to have a cigar in a Manhattan having to deal with that. So it still fits.
It could be a combination. So yeah, it was a good album. It was Jarvis Gerald did a really good job. And I did forget to mention, I think this came out in 2012. So
Okay, it's got a little bit of time behind it.
Yeah. So far as scoring, I am gonna give the album artwork. Do you have that behind you? That looks different.
Yeah, well, you can't. So you have the record in front of you.
I do, I have it, but so I give it a 5, I guess, because it's fitting. Jarvis Gerald is a good looking photogenic man, and he can pull it off. He pulls off a lot of looks. He can look like a beach bum, or he can look like a strapping, R&B singer. So
Now, would you say the same thing about your husband?
Well, well,
And on that note, we're going to the next category, to the flow.
yeah. So flow.
What'd you say about a
Flow-
strap on? What?
So the flow got a 5. It had a nice flow. It's a nice song selection. Everything kind of went together and felt right. Nothing was out of place. Musicianship of the band, I gave a 5. The songs are classic, so I think it's pretty hard to screw those up. And I'm sure the players, they just know what they're doing. And again, he's such a professional, and there's not much you're gonna screw up on these kind of songs. Accessibility, I gave a 3. Because these are kind of they're older songs, R&B. It's not everybody's cup of tea. If you're into R&B, you're gonna love it. And soul, and if you enjoy Sam Cooke, you're gonna love it. And then Jarvis Gerald, like I said, his work on it, because it's him and with his voice, I would give it a 5 on that level, if that makes sense. So kind of leads into my overall rating, which I give a 4.5. I don't love the genre. I do appreciate it. Obviously it had a big impact on everything that followed, and what Sam Cooke brought to it, and how Jarvis Gerald pulled it off, and he did a great job. So yeah, that's it for me.
Well, I could tell by Mark's eye roll that definitely came from the decimal point that was added to the scoring there. But don't worry, Mark, I find you a great R&B artist. Please don't ever sing. So on that note, what's that total up? I should have been.
Let's see,
that up
5,
myself.
10, 15, 18,
22.5.
22.5. Yeah.
Are we rounding up or down? How's this work on this show?
Give
I'm
it
the
the
host.
22.5. Give her this half.
Or you can give it
Alright.
a 3 because of the Jarvis Gerald.
Actually,
Or this is when
So-
I play the da 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 da. Let's get moving on the Family Feud. No. So we'll go with the 23.5. We'll roll with that, or 22.5, or I don't know. The half part really just kind of threw me off entirely. So, anyways,
So why? So I'm glad. I knew when you heard it that you should have been. I was pretty sure you knew who it was. I knew that he had a pseudonym. My reason for giving it to you was to also put it out to the music multiverse and the people that watch us, all 49 people.
49.
The idea here is
and a half.
Yes, and a half. The rabbit hole. We have a show that we're going to be starting soon called The Rabbit Hole. And this is an example of that rabbit hole. When you think of the Philosopher Kings, if that's where you started with them, which is what you did, and what I did as well, right? Now you're looking and you're going, who's the guy who sings in that band? Well, it's Gerald, whatever. I can't remember his name. Now wait a minute, he's Jarvis Church. So now you go down that rabbit hole. Then there's the producer of the Philosopher Kings, or it could be the guitarist, the drummer. There's all kind of ways. The guy who produced the record might have come from other genres and get you into, or Jarvis Church could have appeared on other people's records. But this was it. He has this is the only volume that I'm aware of that he did. He did an album, Shake It Off, and The Long Way Home. No, he's done, I think there's a volume 2 and 3, but I don't know what they were.
There
There
are
are.
more volumes, but yeah, I'm not quite sure either.
But yeah, when you say he can pull off different looks, he certainly can. He
Mhm.
certainly can. Yeah. I wore a hat, and Jeff Johnson, gave me the what are you wearing the hat for? So I guess I can only pull off one look. There's his mark. Anyway.
So on to you, Mark. What did Sue give you?
All right. So the album name is "Are We Gonna Be All Right?" ? And the name of the band is Fickel Friends. So my first impression when I received the album was that it was going to be some sort of indie sound. I wasn't quite sure what that indie sound might be, but I had a feeling that it was going to be female fronted. So check mark on the vocal, female fronted. Maybe the indie, it's a little bit indie, but I think the value of indie labeling now is shot. Indie used to mean to the record buyer in some cases, not the critical term, that it was new, it wasn't genre ready. It was somebody that was independent, not worried about getting record play or I should say radio play, etc. I don't think that's valid anymore. They're independent because this band started in 2013 and they didn't have a label and they were touring and they probably did like 50 some shows a year. And they were probably, once I get into this, they were probably the act that began these shows and got people going. That would be my assumption. So anyway, they are English. They're an indie rock band, but I would say they put themselves more on the indie pop side. Dance keyboard more but the guitars are there, and I'll explain that in a minute. And this might be because why it's more keyboard oriented is because Sam Morris and the lead singer Natasha Schinner were the catalyst of the start of the band. So where do we go from there? This is really, there's a single that starts it off called I Love You to Death. And the minute that's put on, I understand the technical production that's put together, and it's maybe as good as the record actually gets for production at this point. It seems like they put all their eggs in that singles basket and drove it home. Now, if you're not familiar with the difference between American radio charting and the UK is a more dance-driven, club-driven, over rock and indie rock. So this is in the wheelhouse of everything. It gave me this metric vibe and maybe a little Silver Sun pickups from Canada, if you're not familiar with these bands. The tempo does continue with the next song, which is called Not Okay. Not that it's not okay. But then we get to a song called Write Me a Song, and this is a change for me. This is where the singer is not going to be able to deliver, in my opinion. Garbage is what they want to be, the band Garbage. And I'm not putting it badly that they're garbage.
You're full of puns on this one, I can tell.
Apparently so. Where they sound, that's where they want their sound to be, but the lyrics are not up to snuff, and the delivery of this woman is not going to hit that range at this point in where they are, to me, without production trickery, which seems to be all over the record. And it's off the rails once we get to Alone, where it's a party track delivered in she has this matter-of-factly delivery of the songwriting. Whether the songwriting, some people have said that it's not childish, they have another word for it, but it's not. I understand where it's coming from. It's okay. It's not my cup of tea. What?
Simple.
Yeah, simple. Yes. So it's a true pop production, and it's too familiar for me. I've heard some of this stuff before, but I think it's, I think that's where they're at. However, we get funked up a bit with the song Glow after trying to, it's almost like a Michael Jackson-like rhythm from the 80s. And I've noticed that some people have said this has an 80s hinge on it. Some of the record, I would agree with that. So when I came right down to it, it's a little bit contrived. but that's kind of goes with the simple. They continue to bounce back and forth between that dance pop delivery, indie pop, we'll call it, and striving to deliver between metric and garbage. It's not that exciting. There's loads of potential. It's a sophomore record that was delayed, or third record, third. It was delayed quite a bit, and maybe, I mean, I didn't look to see who produced it, that kind of thing. I know that it's a little out of my wheelhouse, but when you get a good groove on and the vocalist can deliver and bring some range and change, it usually goes pretty well. That like Boot Sauce, for instance, not a female, but that I was talking about the other night, that's kind of in this groove, in this section, and that mentality of sound. So when it comes right down to it, I said the following: the album artwork, I'll put it in the middle. It's kind of the back of someone's head might be interesting. I don't know. I'll put it in the middle. It's a 3.
They might be all right.
Are we going to be all right? I don't know. I can't tell because I can't see your eyes. So on that note, I'll do the rest of the show backwards.
They might be all right. They are okay, even though they say they're not. Are we okay? And
I will say this: the last song is the title track, which is unusual, and
that is different.
And it's a lower key. It's kind of like you're coming back to all of these songs that they just had. Are we going to be all right? Kind of goes back to the first song, Love You to Death, or not Love You to Death, Not Okay. They had the same they're telling the same tale, it seemed to me. And there's a little bit of the same music involved.
Well, and the other thing I was going to say is that they're not garbage. But
they're not garbage. That's right. This is not garbage. But wait a minute. Is it garbage? I don't know.
Before you get to the flow, the other thing I was going to ask is you mentioned about the single seeming like they put all their eggs in that basket. Is that something you think they did by design to get a little bit more notoriety and a little bit more fanfare out of it?
It seems to me that when I looked at this band and their history, that they were getting this single thing where they didn't have a record deal. They did EP. They had problems because of COVID, so they did an EP, an EP, an EP, and then they put them together to make an album. And I didn't look at anybody else's reviews. I was trying to grab, like, if someone said they sounded like this, because I couldn't remember the name of the one band, Silver Sun Pickups. It took me forever. But they did state that, this is the kind of record that they had to make, and they went back to stuff that was used prior because they had waited so long to put things out. Maybe so I think timeline wise, this is why the album flow of music is okay. It probably would have been better if they could have did the studio, did the album they wanted, and then got it out to the public. But COVID probably screwed all that up.
So that goes to the flow of this album.
I'm a 3 because it keeps bouncing back and forth from this indie pop dance to this I want to be a little bit more spunky, and then the album ends on this title track, which was odd to me. But then I'm remembering it went, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh because it's just not in my wheelhouse, but I gave that a 3 as well. It's in the middle. I understand what they're doing. I understand that they want to bring you up, bring you down, bring you up, bring you. But I was kind of, it's not all down. When I say down, it's not that much down tempo. It's just the delivery, the musicianship of the band. So they've got good production. They could have better production, I think. I think the female vocalist fits. I would love to see more range, but it is what it is. There are vocalists out there that don't have range that do their thing. This fits. Maybe the guitar, when the guitar is trying to hit that garbage type riff, and maybe there's some other riff instead they should be doing. Maybe it should take a different pose. I don't know. So that was a 3 for me. The accessibility, it's a 5. This is a very accessible record. It charted number 9 or right off the bat in the UK. So people will get right into it immediately. It's it's recognizable immediately. You know what I mean? It's not going to put you off. There's no pitch that's bad. There's no drum that's beating too hard or gonna, knock your ears out. It's well put together. It's, indie pop production. Overall rating for me, I'm a 3. I've listened to this record now 4 times and then song pieces in between. And I found I will tell people this. I didn't believe in these, that it would be different. Okay. This is their AirPods, right?
Mhm.
Listening in the car to records, listening downstairs in my basement to records. This is different. This is you hear everything. Okay. And when I had this in my ears and I listened to it the first time, I heard everything. And there were bits and pieces that when you hear everything, if it's not technically sound, you can pick it up where it, just didn't quite work. When I hear it out there in reality, I don't hear those mistakes. I like it a little bit more, right?
That's why
No.
I will swear by the over-ear headphone, because this thing is the same exact thing for me. And Sue,
Yeah.
I see you've got your
Yeah, the
as
sound
well.
deadening, turning the world off, like we have in our website, world off, noise off or music on. I don't even know what I put on my own website. How terrible.
Well, I'm the host today. You just worry about being the participant today.
Yeah, 17 points for me. And I might go back and listen because now just before the show, I looked to see reviews that people had put, and somebody had said they thought it was a step back from prior. Because they said something about trying to reach for something. No one, not a single of the 5 reviews I clicked said anything about Garbage, Metric, or Silver Sun Pickups. They had other bands that I'm not familiar with, like the 1975.
Oh,
okay.
That's one that I'm very curious what your take would be if you did dive into them. And
I've heard one record, and it was a turnoff for me.
I can't do them. I don't get it.
I don't know what their sound is. I don't know what they're doing. They're sort of like where the Arctic Monkeys are right now.
I would still put the Arctic Monkeys, at least in my ears, as a higher taste. But when I hear the 1975, I get lost. I listen to it and I just go, why am I doing this? Like,
you want to talk about get lost? Just for people out there, I just listened to the Avenged Sevenfold record. I'm lost. This is a metal band. It's no longer a metal band. It is a progressive metal band, but the end of it is classical. It's bizarre. Total bizarre.
But the thing I'd say about the 1975 is there's just commercially such a niche market that loves them. And I don't get it.
So in your comments at this, if you are a 1975 listener, wait a minute, what is that? Oh my God, another pun. If you're a listener of the band, the 1975, please let us know if you feel that if Fickel Friends is congruent. Anyway, I digress. From my
so for that, we have a winner tonight. And by a winner, I mean that means absolutely nothing. We have participation trophies for both of our contestants.
Oh, goody.
Well, that's the era we live in, so we might as well. So I'd like to thank both of our guests tonight, Mark, Sue. Thank you for gracing us with your challenges of each other, and the household. We'll pretend it's a war, but it's more like a pillow fight at best. All right, we don't even know what happens when the camera goes off. Anyways, for you two, I'd like to say thank you, and to our listeners in the music multiverse, thank you for listening. Again, participate, like, subscribe, comment on this if you've got anything you want to say about any part of the show at all. Visit us at beyondyourradio.com. I will turn it over to Mark for anything I might have missed or anything coming up.
We are going to have this Thursday, 2 days from now, part 2 of panelists' favorite female solo album. I'm looking forward to that because I think it's going to have a little bit more beyond your radio type of albums. So I'm looking forward to that. That's it for now. Don't get my hopes up. Oh, happy listening, everyone.